Today on Agency Unfiltered, we have Ingunn, COO from Avidly in the studio. Avidly, a Nordic marketing company that is the result of a successful acquisition and combination of 4 diamond HubSpot partners across Finland, Sweden, Denmark, and Norway, is now one of the largest inbound agencies in the world. Ingunn joins us to discuss how her team approached the merger, how they knew it was time, and what the transformation into Avidly meant for their leadership, their employees, their processes, and their clients. M&A, mergers and acquisitions, is always a hot topic for agencies, regardless of size and which side of the coin they fall on. Ingunn breaks it down and shares her learnings from the creation of Avidly. Let's dive in. So, Ingunn, hello.
Hi.
Obviously, you've just recently completed a major merger, the new Avidly team, formerly Inbound Norway.
Yeah.
And so I'm hoping today to pick your brain on some lessons learned. I think
Absolutely.
with a lot of our agency partners or people in the community, mergers, acquisitions, both looking to be acquired versus looking to make an acquisition, hot topic, and people are always looking to learn more.
Yes.
So you seem like a perfect person to connect with. So I would say initially, maybe the best place to start, how did you identify for Inbound Norway it was time to open up that Avidly conversation? So what's the timeline to begin this whole process?
For us, we started Inbound Norway 18 months ago. When we opened, our strategy was to grow and work with other partners. That was the initial thought. It was kind of an opportunity we already saw. We saw other agencies outsource, but we really wanted to fully work with other agencies. And when we started looking into that, it quite quickly became, we should probably merge. It's much easier. To work side by side is fine for a while, but we realized it was so much easier to just become one company.
How did you identify the right fit? So obviously Avidly, and correct me if I'm wrong, it's a merging of 3 teams. So how did you identify these are the other 2 agencies we want to go into Avidly with?
Yeah, no, good question. I did a talk yesterday, and I said, you need to get to know yourself first as an agency. Unless you want to be like us and be lucky. We met Doidea from Sweden and Katalysator from Denmark really early on through Grow It Group, which help agencies grow. And they were on the same type of ambitious growth path as we were. So we started talking to them, working with them just to see is this a good fit? And it was a match really quickly. We saw that they were thinking in the same way, they were ambitious in the same way, and they have very similar values. Obviously, we'd phrased them quite differently, but at the core, we were all carrying on.
When you boil it down, it felt pretty similar, yeah.
Yeah. So as soon as we saw that, we were like, this is the right fit. And after we started working with them and were on the path to merging, we got contacted by Sealand family in Finland, and they said, we see what you guys are doing. We want in.
Really?
And they were also very similar in many ways. And we thought, why not? If we're doing 3, why not do 4? So, yeah.
Why not,
yeah,
right?
Why not?
Sure,
yeah. So, but I think it's a gut feeling, a lot of it. I think we felt quite quickly that these were a good match. There's always going to be differences, but the core felt right. Yeah.
So you say again, gut feel, you could just kind of you could just jive, right? Okay,
yeah.
I can feel we're kind of on the same path.
Yeah.
You mentioned ambitious growth goals. I would say if you polled a number of agencies, you'd be yeah, our goals are pretty ambitious. So how did that mean for you? What did ambitious mean for you? And how did they meet that? Does that make sense?
I guess we had goals that made people laugh. We had goals where even ourselves were can we say this? And every time I saw someone hesitating before contributing with a goal, because we included the whole team. And if they were I could tell they were hesitating, I was say that. That's the goal.
Yeah.
And I mean, some of them were ridiculous in terms of 5-year goals where we were going to have a massive office with a pool on the roof and, you know, the whole thing. But you have to just go big so that you can actually get halfway there.
Right.
If you just go small, you're always just going to be small.
Right.
So, yeah.
And I think an office with a pool on the roof, I mean, it's almost like a culture thing too, right? Like, okay, I mean, you're going to attract team members and you're going to get everyone bought in on this. Like, if you agree with that mission, then you're going to fit in really well here. So I think there's like a people play as well there.
Yeah, and I do like how I listened to a podcast recently where they talked about Airbnb, and they said that when they were creating their customer experience, they thought, okay, what's a 1-star experience? What's a 2-star experience? Up to 10. And on the 10, they were flying their guests to space with their favorite celebrity eating your favorite food. Like, they were creating a full experience that was insane.
Yeah, right.
But then they took it back down and said, but we can actually aim for 7. That's actually possible. But if you go, okay, what's our goal? It's a 1-star experience, then
you're going to just deliver half-star experiences, right?
Exactly.
Like, exactly. Yeah. So we've identified some agencies. You kind of begin those conversations. What would you say are like the biggest takeaways or lessons learned? Like if you were to go right back to day one of those processes, like is there anything you would do different or things that you would keep in mind?
I listed some mistakes when I was sharing this with partners yesterday. And I think not knowing ourselves 100%. So we in Norway had to create what we saw as our core at the same time as merging with these other companies.
Yeah.
So that's a challenge. And again, we were very lucky. Being in the Nordics, we were similar cultures, not the same, but similar. So that helps if you're merging with someone from far, far away. I think that would be a little different,
challenge. Sure.
So yeah, I think that was really maybe something we should have considered. And something we have fought hard for is open and honest conversations. I hate this whole, I heard this a week ago. And it's like, no, you heard it today, say it today and get it all out on the table.
Right.
Because it's not about like the feelings and the emotions of the situations, it's about actually getting the things done. And I think these things build up so quickly. So if you're working with people that you don't see every single day, you should at least let them know what you're thinking.
Sure.
Yeah.
Communicate consistently,
Absolutely.
openly, as frequently as you possibly can.
Be honest, even if it's a little bit painful there and then, it's much more painful 3 months down the line when you're like, I've been thinking about this for ages, but now
right,
it's
you let
too
it bottle
late.
up, it's going to get way worse.
Yeah,
Sure.
absolutely.
Perfect.
Yeah.
Makes sense. What about just like business as usual? So you're having all these conversations, negotiations. I would imagine that Inbound Norway is still delivering at 100% capacity and getting all of their clients' results. Is there anything like to keep in mind, like how does that balance work? And like how did you make sure that clients still got the services and results they needed?
You have to really focus, and we've kind of split it up a bit. So our core teams in the different countries are focusing on that country. They know the murder is going on and they get all the information, but they're not necessarily involved in all the processes around it.
Sure, yeah.
So if you're a consultant in Norway, you still work on your project. And then if it's something relevant to pull you into, you're pulled into the shared project across all the countries. And for most of the consultants, they don't necessarily notice a difference right now. They will when we start getting all the lines set up and all the processes set up. But for now, it's a lot of the same, and their focus is to deliver the same as before. And the same with sales, which I think can be a huge challenge because you start thinking, pan-Nordic, can I go after different clients? Like you shift your focus a little bit.
Sure, yeah.
So we've really worked hard to try to pull that focus back into the separate countries. Like that is your core market, that is where you need to deliver. But it's definitely something you have to almost do a weekly reminder on.
Yeah.
Like, this is where we are, remember this. If you don't deliver in your country, there's going to be none of the rest.
Yeah, right.
So, but so important to keep that focus. Yeah.
You bring up an interesting point. You mentioned process. So 3 different agencies, 4 different, whatever a merger may look like, everyone's going to have their own unique systems and processes, methodologies, approaches. How do you kind of bring those together? Did you end up with something that's a little bit of all, or I mean, how did you guys merge processes?
We started looking at it really early on. In Norway, we are crazy about processes. Absolutely love them, have a process for everything. So for our team, it was a lot about being open to the feedback.
Sure.
Because we had our ways and we knew how we wanted to do things. And then the other countries had some processes, and then it was more about looking, okay, how different are they actually? Because so much of it is built on the inbound methodology and what we've learned from HubSpot. So in that way, the core was always the same, and we just had to look at, okay, how does that work for you? Is this process something that gives you great results? Okay, our process gives okay results. Great, we're going with this one. Learning that to the whole team. So we are in the process of going through everything like that, but luckily in a lot of ways we work very similar.
Sure. Right, at the end of the day, we're all trying to do the same thing. So there were some similarities, focus on the similarities versus maybe the small differences, at least to start.
And it doesn't all have to be the same. So it's often about, okay, what's the size of the client? If you have this size client, then work in this way. If it's this size client, work in this way. So there will be some differences, and there will be some differences based on kind of the culture in that country or the size of the client.
Sure.
Yeah.
So maybe it's not about just identifying like the one size fits all process, but knowing there might be some differences there.
Yeah, and building the confidence in the consultants working on the project to be able to choose, to know that, okay, this is this type of project, I should go with this type of process and move on from there. Really.
Yeah, for sure. Obviously, there's geographical differences between all of the different segments of Avidly now, and I would imagine for a lot of agencies going through a merger or acquisition, similarly, right? Like they're just different places. How does communication change across the organization? Like what have you had to shift around to make sure everyone collaborates appropriately, communicates appropriately?
So we were already using Slack really actively in all the different countries. So we're in the process now of moving everyone into one Slack channel, which is going to be huge.
One channel? Yeah.
Just one, one Slack.
Yeah, gotcha, yeah.
And 1 million channels.
Yeah,
so we're really working on that, and obviously we have a process for how you use Slack. So there's very strict rules on how to use the different channels, because you don't want everyone to post in the general Slack channel with tagging everyone.
Yeah, at all or at here, and then just pinging
who's having lunch, and then it's to everyone. So that's one way where we can at least have people in direct communication with each other.
Sure.
We also do a weekly all hands meeting where everyone's on video, and we talk through good news from each country, news about Avidly as a whole. Jeppe, who's our HubSpot expert, does a little whiteboard Friday about what's new in HubSpot. And then we often have our developers showcase, okay, we created a new template, it's really successful, this is how we did it, this is how you guys can offer this to your clients. So we try to do a bit more of knowledge sharing and that kind of stuff. So it's going to be a lot of video and a lot of Slack.
Yeah.
Minimal email, because it just,
there's already plenty of that coming through. Yeah, sure. Yeah.
And we have realized that definitely doing more video than writing is useful, because there's different ways of phrasing things which cause miscommunication.
Sure.
So we've even just seen like the different use of emojis can cause
this emoji here might not be the same there. Yeah.
A lot of people do this where they do ... after writing something.
Yeah.
And someone came to me and said, are they angry with me, or what's going on?
Right.
And I'm like, I think they're just thinking. But it leaves it up for interpretation. So we're trying to use more video, because then you can actually see someone's face.
Yep.
They're smiling.
Reduces the confusion on what they're trying to mean and how they're trying to say.
Absolutely, yeah. And if we grow further, which hopefully we will, then video is going to become even more important.
Sure.
Yeah.
We've talked a lot about merging and bringing things together. Is there anything in particular that you're keeping separate from all the different locations? And if so, is that like permanent, or is that like, where are you in your merging process? Or are there some things that you're like, oh no, we're going to keep those separate, and that's on purpose?
A lot of things are still separate, just because we wanted to make sure that we took the right steps first, and to deal with Sealand family on Friday. No, Sealand family just went through on Friday. So we haven't had time to really move into all of it, but we are combining as much as possible.
Sure.
And then some things make sense, like we have to have local versions of the website because we have to have the different language versions, but we will have one shared English one.
Okay.
So at least we have one kind of shared face for the world. And then we have some centralized roles moving forward, but there will still be team leaders in each country. There will still be obviously the country managers, and certain specialists will only be in some countries based on the market.
Sure, yeah.
So if we see integrations, for example, they're great in Sweden, they will grow a team doing integrations. We're not going to start establishing a team of integrations in Norway because it doesn't make any sense.
Sure. We'll just lean on that team
Exactly.
that's already the pros, the expertise.
Yeah. So we'll rather train our salespeople in selling it, and then delivery comes from Sweden. So
Gotcha.
Yeah.
So on this kind of dichotomy of things that are merged, things that are separate, where do like financials fit into all of it?
So at the moment, we're keeping it in the different countries, and there will be things where, we're creating this website right now that's being created parts in Finland, parts in Denmark, but then we have other things which are happening in the other countries, so it equals out, and we have to do it for that kind of, that's the best way of doing it for now.
Yeah.
Moving forward, that might change, but it's just the easiest way to do things right now.
Makes sense, yeah.
If not, it's a lot about kind of just technical things, like everyone would have to be hired from a company that's centralized, there's tax rules, so keeping that separate for now makes sense, and then there's, minor adjustments and fluctuations in between.
Sure. Yeah, I mean, at the end of the day, I think it's really going to depend on, okay, where are the agencies looking to merge, or where is your acquisition? I mean, obviously you guys are operating in a number of different countries versus if it was another team in the same country, maybe that simplifies that whole process.
That's the thing. If you're merging with someone in your own country, I think that just makes sense to have one like system and financing and everything. But since it's different countries, there's so many laws and rules that would make it impossible.
Now, last few questions here. If every agency is going to have their leadership team, right? So if you're merging or acquiring, that's bringing together two leadership teams. How do you avoid, power struggles, or how do you make sure roles and responsibilities, like all leaders, feel or continue to be leaders?
Yeah. So far, what we've done is anyone who was currently a CEO, if they want to continue in the same type of position, they're the country manager, because that's basically still the same role.
Yeah.
A lot of that just falls into the same kind of brackets and everything. And then we had kind of planned to have some more specialized roles, like we created a position for head of new ideas and innovation, head of strategic partnerships, and then kind of the management teams from a different country could move into these kind of positions, depending on what they want to do, because a lot of companies also, when they merge, they want to step into a different role. We've seen some move into delivery again because they missed that part.
Interesting, yeah.
Maybe they were part of building this company, and now they're like, actually, I really miss delivery. I miss the client-facing work, and I don't want to do the management anymore. So it's more about kind of talking to the people we're merging with. What is your interest? Where do we see opportunities? And quite often, when we've been talking about this, they have a very clear idea of an area that they've sat with and been, this is my dream, or this is something I see huge potential in, but I put it on the back burner because I'm running this company and growing this company. And then they have the opportunity to kind of build on that coming into us.
I mean, I think the important part is you're identifying like new roles. Is that okay, as we're trying to right fit everybody into their new roles in this new kind of larger organization, there can be some alternate pathing. So there are, it's not just all of the existing roles, but there seems to be some new opportunities, and you can map that out as well.
That's the thing, as long as it's kind of, I said justifiable almost in terms of like, is it profitable that you're going to do that kind of work? Then it just makes sense. As long as that's an area where we can grow and develop, then why not do that?
Yeah. Final question. I tend to ask this for each one of these. Never really sure kind of how this is going to take us, but I think you're going to have an interesting perspective on it. So I tend to ask, what's like the weirdest or strangest part of agency life? So maybe yours would be a little different. What's like what's been the funniest or weirdest part of going through the building of Avidly, if there's anything?
I think there's several smaller things maybe. First of all, realizing how little we understand each other's languages sometimes. We're still just in the Nordics. Taking kind of the Finnish part to the side, because that's a completely different language. Looking at Swedish, Danish and Norwegian, very similar languages. We still speak English most of the time. So that's, a little bit strange.
Even goes back to emojis and
I know.
things like that, right? Like,
It's the subtleties that you sometimes
Yeah.
just go, no. And sometimes in meetings I can hear someone say something and the other person from the other country says something and I'm sitting there thinking, you're both speaking English, but you're saying the same thing, but you think you disagree. So there's some translation work sometimes. But I think that's something also to just get used to when you understand how the different people operate and what their priority is.
it's a pretty good answer. That's great. I think that's all for us today. So I appreciate you again coming in.
Thank you.
And obviously, best of luck with everything Avidly.
Thank you.
Thanks, Ingunn. That wraps up another episode of Agency Unfiltered. If you like what you watched, make sure to subscribe to our Agency Unfiltered newsletter, which will remind you when the next episode drops, as well as send you a ton of other helpful, strategically curated agency content. You could also subscribe to our channel on YouTube or podcast on SoundCloud. And if you want to keep the conversation going, tweet me at Kevin_Dunn. Remember, keep it unfiltered, stay weird. I'm Kevin Dunn, and I'll see you next time.